And we are back, everybody, and for another episode of Fourth in Fantasy. I am Honcho, and this is
Siriaco, we are live today.
yes, we are coming to you live today, and I'm super excited for this slate of NFL games. We should get a good bit of football today. What you think, Sirocco?
I think that as we're going later into the season, teams are going to fall out, teams are going to fall in, and this is a critical week to know the the path that your fantasy teams have.
100%. I think at this point, you either know if you are contending or your team is a piece OS and you need to be doing something about that today. But we have a full slate for you guys before these 1 o'clock games kick off, starting with Thursday night game with the New York Jets versus the Houston Texans. And boy, did the Green Bay, oh, not the Green Bay, excuse me, did the New York Jets come out and show that they had a little something.
Yeah, I think this was do or die. I mean, I've been waiting for this team to show up for weeks now. I mean, what are they, 3-6 now?
Mhm.
The encouraging thing that I found was a lot of people thought the acquisition of Devontae Adams would negatively affect Garrett Wilson, but it seems to have helped Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is on a run right now, including the catch of the year, the Jordan Jumpman in the end zone, got the shin down, touchdown, two touchdowns on the day,
Oh yeah.
and 30 points on the week in most scoring formats.
Oh yeah. It was a crazy week, and I've been a big Garrett Wilson hater, I must say. Up until this game, I just didn't think the price tag that came along with him and where you drafted him in startups, he was putting up to that. So this was a wonderful week for any Garrett Wilson owner that has any shares out there. And then we saw a little bit of Devontae Adams get in there with his old pal. So, and I still think Adams is by far one of the best route runners in the NFL, and we got to see that on display this past game. What do you think of that connection going forward between Adams and Rogers?
I'll be honest with you, I thought he was out of the game. I thought he got concussed on another great route where he landed on his head, shoulder, and I thought he was out for the game. So imagine my surprise when he comes back in the game and hits, on a long ball. That was pretty cool to see. And I haven't heard anything about him having any type of injury since then. So it looks like he somehow got out of that unscathed. But when he landed on his head and was down for a while, I was pretty scared that another guy goes down this time,
Yeah.
Devontae Adams.
I was going to be quite livid. I think just because of I'm tired of these injuries. I'm tired of all these star players, and sometimes you just can't help it. But man, has it been a brutal year for injuries? And we have talked about the team that won, but obviously there was a team that also lost in the Houston Texans, who did not look good as we typically are used to them.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, he was a first round pick. He was QB1 for a lot of people coming into the season, and that just hasn't come out to play. He hasn't really had a much blow up games this year. Um, Part of that is injury. Nico Collins, his wide receiver one, has been out for about a month now. Stephon Diggs is out now. That leaves Tank Dell, who came into the season, off of a broken leg, and also got shot in the offseason. So right now he's depending on John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, Dalton Schultz, and it's not pretty. So hopefully Nico Collins comes back soon. I think they were saying, I was reading some of the injury docs on Twitter. They believe that he should be back next week.
Mhm.
So he definitely needs his targets to come back. Another problem with that team is the defense is so good that he doesn't have to score. Joe Mixon is having a throwback year and looks like he's damn near close to to the running back one. So there are a lot of reasons for C.J. Stroud not having a great season, but hopefully he starts stepping it up for people that drafted him very early.
And I'm glad you mentioned Joe Mixon because boy, do I have a heap of him, and he has been the definition of a workhorse back this season. When you do have Nico Collins who's down, you're basically down to Tank Dow. Schultz has been cool, but he's not somebody that moves the needle for me. John Mechie is just another body out there. Hate to say it, I thought he was going to step up and show a little more, but he hasn't. And then you got what's his name? Woods. I was trying to think of Bobby Trees. I was trying to think of his nickname. Bobby Trees, the one of the best nicknames out of there. Probably looking like your best receiver on the field besides Tank Dell, is not good. They're very much missing Nico Collins right now, and they need him back on the field to get at least back to what we're used to them doing. And I think it shows how big the injury to Stephon Diggs to that offense was and how much important he was to the overall landscape of what they do. So
Hmm. Hmm.
they're going to have to lean on Joe Mixon. They're going, you know, I've in a few startups that I was in this year saw Stroud go for the 1-on-1. Thought that was crazy.
Yeah,
The 1-on-1.
it's kind of high for a guy that doesn't run a lot.
So, hey, when you had guys, I'm not saying you should draft Kyler Murray or anything before then, but or even Mahomes, because Mahomes is just a so-so fantasy quarterback, as we all know at this point. But yeah, Stroud is going to have to come out, show that he's worth that. He's going to have to come out and as much crap as people give Dak Prescott, of having him saying, "Oh, you're supposed to be this star quarterback. You're supposed to carry the team." We got to keep that same energy for CJ Stroud. So we're going to see how the rest of this season goes, and when they get Nico Collins back, to see if that offense does change.
Just a fun fact: C.J. Stroud in 9 games has two 300-yard passing days. Two,
Man,
and he has quite a few 3 games where he has less than 200 yards. So he's not helping you win most weeks.
wah, wah, wah. Definitely not good from you. What you want out of your QB1, and I would even say this might move him into that QB2 territory. I don't think he's QB1 material. I won't say material right now. Oh, I would say just currently where his status is, where that offense is, going, he's QB2. And but he once he gets all his weapons back, he can easily give you those QB1 weeks, and that will transition us into our next subject of discussing this week's schedule slate of NFL games. And as I thought I had the schedule up. Let me
All right, we are a work in progress, guys
yeah,
and gals.
here we go. So for the 1 o'clock games to start off, we have my Dallas Cowboys versus the Atlanta Falcons. And Siako, tell me how you feeling about this game here and the players.
Well, I will say that it's a game that we should be invested in because the over under is 52 points on the week. So I think that tells us that there will be points scored. Neither defense is great. Atlanta has not produced much of a pass rush this year. So I think Dak should have a pretty good game. Look out for CD Lamb. Um, I think that the Falcons, there's nobody on the Dallas Cowboys that scares me as far as slowing down the Atlanta Falcons. So hopefully we see some fireworks. So I would be starting all of my startable Falcons, and I would be starting all of my startable Cowboys. Some guys to maybe look out for is besides the obvious guys, are maybe Jalen Tolbert if you need a flex, and also a guy that I'm pretty confident is going to have a big week this week, outside of the obvious guys, is Mooney.
Mooney, oh yeah, Darnell Mooney, and I was a big fan of his signing when he did end up going to Atlanta, just due to I always think or thought that they needed a wide receiver too to go alongside Drake London and pair with him. A couple of guys that I'm super excited to watch is Rico Dowdle. Ezekiel Elliott has been ruled inactive this week due to disciplinary reasons. And
What's the scoop on that? Why is he getting disciplined?
the scoop is he wasn't too happy being told that he was going to be inactive this week. And I get what he his feeling, because he wasn't the reason why we lost last week to the 49ers. He actually did look serviceable. He actually did look he moved the chains a few times in that game. It's just that right now we're going with the younger guys, and I can't even say Dalvin Cook is the younger guy, but he probably is a little bit more or a bit more explosive than what Ezekiel Elliott can give you.
Hmm.
So I'm a big Rico Dowdle guy. He gives you, if you go back and look at that Steelers game that we won, he was a big part of that, and we
Hmm.
were able to move the ball. So if you have Rico Dowdle and you need a running back right now to start in your lineup, go ahead and throw him in there. He's definitely going to get more than 9 carries, 10 carries this game by far. And then CD is going to go crazy against this Atlanta defense. We like to target CD quite a bit. And honestly, at this point, we don't really have much besides him. So we need to get our wide receiver one going. If you remember back from last year
Hmm.
after our bye, this was the time that CD Lamb got going. This was the time that CD Lamb became wide receiver one
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
2023. So I look for him to keep that trajectory. Last week, he went crazy against the San Fran, and I think he can even go and even have the same week today. So we will see. Dak Prescott, hopefully he bounces back. I think he will have 2 touchdowns this game, as we will lean on the passing offense. Defense, we're looking a little scary. Trevon Diggs is dealing with a calf injury. So
He's out, isn't he?
he's testing it. I hear that he's going to see how warm-ups are going to go to see how his calf feels. We're already down to Ron Bland, and then you got guys like Mooney, as you brought up. You have Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts. You have Bijan. So many weapons that you're going to have to deal with for this defense. I just don't think we're going to be able to. And as you see right there, Cowboys number one fan. So this is just I'm just being truthful. But I hope we can squeak away the win today.
Hey, no bandwagoners here. Both of our teams kind of suck this year, so no Chiefs fan in my line of sight here.
I have no problem calling how it is. If I was going to do a parlay today, I would even bet against my Cowboys. So, but I would put a really good bet on CD. Will have a day. Rico Dowdle will have a pretty decent game. You could even see Jason Ferguson get in there and give you some quality points this week. So, if you have a Cowboys, even have a starter player on the Cowboys who does get their fair volume of targets or touches in this offense, start them today, as they are going against a decent but not so great Atlanta defense.
I like it. I like it.
The next game we have today, which I'm also pretty much paying attention to because I am a big fan of this quarterback, Bo Nix. We have the Broncos versus the Ravens, and I'm excited because we saw the Ravens defense give Jameis Winston almost the GOAT status of the week. How bad they made that, how they were playing him, how they good they made Jameis look. So, what are you expecting out of this game?
Out of this game, I look to see if Bo Nix can keep it going. Honestly, I mean, he started out as a guy that was unstartable. He was putting up, you know, very pedestrian games, and he has just blown up in the last few weeks. The good thing about him, sneakily, not a lot of people knew this. coming into this year is he can scoot, he can move, he
Mhm.
can pick up yards on the ground, and hi- accuracy in college was one of his, especially when he was in Oregon, was a big attribute of his, and it looks like it's starting to come about in the pros.
Uh-huh.
Um, I worry a little bit. I don't think his weapons are that great, but you just got to kind of believe in Coach Sean Payton. He's a guy um, that got damn near 10 wins out of Taysom Hill. Jameis Winston. He's pretty much won with anybody he's had at the quarterback position, and this is the guy he handpicked. Maybe he handpicked him because some of the other guys were gone, but this is the guy that Sean Payton, attached, his Denver legacy to, and he's. I think I read somewhere that he's been the quarterback three over the last few weeks.
Oh yeah.
So, a lot of people that drafted him in the second round of rookie drafts are really starting to see, him blossom. So, um, he's the guy I would be looking for. I'm a little nervous about the running back, Javante
Devontae,
Williams.
yeah.
Um, although, I think that's more reputation for Baltimore than how they've actually played.
Mhm.
So, um, he's maybe in the running back two realm for me. And as far as Baltimore, I would be a little bit nervous because Denver does have a great defense, but you're still starting King, you're still starting Lamar. Um, who in that wide receiver room do you like this week? Do you are you rolling with the tight ends? Are you rolling with the wide receivers?
I will probably have to go with the receivers, and I know they've been a little bit underwhelming. But what I do think with the Broncos is just because of how Nick's been distributing the ball, he's one of the best coming out of the draft and what we've seen in the NFL as one of the better intermediate passers in the game. And his progressions has gotten better. His timing has gotten better with how his wide receivers are running his routes. And if you even seen a few times, eh, the next player I'm going to mention, I have him quite a bit on my teams, Trey Franklin. There's been a couple deep balls to him that he's missed over the games. So there's been plays that Bo Nix has made that his receivers just haven't been able to make. So I believe that this week, especially going against the Ravens defense, that we should see them have a little bit more success. I want to see Troy Franklin be schemed a little bit better. He doesn't need to always be running a deep ball, right? He can run those horizontal routes. He can be that guy that you scheme open to where I believe just 2 weeks ago he had a decent game. He can give you something, and I at this point he's probably your second best receiver if we're being
Hmm.
honest. So
Hmm.
Mims hasn't been what we thought of when we first initially came into the
Drop
season.
season.
Yeah, it's just hasn't looked good for him. So right now, Bo Nix is doing an incredible job at what he has, and Sean Payton should also get some kudos too of how he's been getting him prepared each week.
What do you think as far as on the Ravens side? Who do you like?
Ooh, well, you can never go against wrong with Lamar, right? He's always going to be a threat on his feet.
You don't
Multi,
sit those guys.
those multi-threat QBs that can beat you through the pass and on with their feet are very, very, very highly thought of. And then if you think about how Lamar has been getting it done throughout the season, and just making some things out of nothing. True. Think about next week with not with next week, past week with Bateman and that how he got out of the pocket, made people miss, threw it up, Bateman dropped it. Oh, so I think that with the Ravens, you can never go wrong with Derrick Henry. He's one of
Hmm.
the that duo between him and Lamar is so good, and he's having a career year. And then you have the newly acquired DJ Deontay Johnson for the Ravens, and I think he should open up things for Zay Flowers. Now, will he be a big part of the offense? No, I still think he still needs to learn to play, but he needs to get acclimated to the overall offense and how he's going to gel with the rest of the guys. But I don't think him coming to the Ravens will hurt Zay Flowers too much. I think it hurts Bateman a lot. I think it hurts the
Hmm.
other receivers a lot. I think Andrews is starting to come on to his own now. He's starting to get that rapport with Lamar and get back into the that mesh, that wonderful things that we're used to between them. Love to see it. It's going to hurt likely. I think his time. I won't say his time with you know with the Ravens is done, but his time of like what we saw at the beginning of I believe it was week 1 or week 2, where he had a really good game. I think we won't see that as much. But those
Uh,
are a few of the guys that I'm
I
looking for on the Ravens.
I got a stat here from Max. He's telling me that Baltimore has the best rush defense in the league, allowing about 70 yards per game on average. But conversely, they have allowed the most passing yards per game,
Mm.
291.4. So almost a 300-yard game. That's a lot of yards. I mean, C.J. Stroud's only hit that number twice so far this year.
Yeah, I know. I honestly just looking for. I think out of this game, what I'm just looking for is really good football, where you have a once again Sean Payton and a really hot rookie quarterback come
Hmm.
playing a Baltimore defense that is suspect. It has been giving up quite a bit yards, and but they have an offense that keeps them in the game. So if we and I've seen a lot of people bring that up is oh, that offense just doesn't have enough targets to go around for everybody. And I don't believe so. Honestly, I think just because of how bad that defense has been, they had to throw the ball a lot more. They've had to, you know, those passing attempts aren't going down. If as long as that defense is as bad as it is, they'll have shootouts. So they will be okay. Everybody in that offense will be okay. They'll figure it out. I like their offensive coordinator, and they're going to be okay. I think with this game, it should be a shootout.
Hmm.
Probably
Hmm.
well into if I had to give you a guess, Broncos probably squeak out this game. I'm going to call a hot
You
take.
got to call upset.
Broncos win this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ravens, but I'm just going chalk. I'm not gonna be as brave as you are on that one.
All right, then our next game is Dolphins versus the Bills. I don't really care much about this game, but I have quite a bit Tyreek Hill stocks, shares, if you will, and I am begging for a Tyreek Hill monster game. What do you think?
Uh, I mean, on paper, the Bills should kind of really beat this team up, but it's a divisional game, so um, and if we remember correctly, this was the game where Tua got concussed in early in the season against these same Bills. So I think they definitely need to be conservative on this game plan.
Mhm.
Bills are one of the worst teams at allowing rushing success. So I think the game plan has to be to feature heavily, the strength of your team, which is your running backs. A sneaky guy, the sneaky start could be a Raheem Mostert who's starting to get back into the mix. They'll definitely have to feature Devin A. Chain heavily in this game. Um, and take your shots, take your play action shots to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I wouldn't expect a blow up game, but I do believe that if this game gets away from Miami, they will have to, start taking their chunk shots. So um, for me, I'd be looking towards the running backs, and hopefully we get some play action, long passing touchdowns to either Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill.
Would you call me crazy if I said that if I had Waddle on my team, I'd probably be looking to try to sell him, even though he probably doesn't have the most value at this very moment. I think just name value alone, if I'm a rebuilding team, he's not helping me in the future. I'm not the biggest Waddle advocate. I'm not the biggest Waddle fan. So what do you think to
If you're selling, I'm buying because,
that?
um, as a general rule for me, and this is me, it doesn't have to be everybody. Everybody has their different strategies. I don't sell my guys low. I would rather them die on my bench. So I don't. Yes, I may be able to sell him on name value, but I feel like I'm not going to get what I want for him. So I mean, coming into the season, he was damn near a two first guy, if not a first and a second type guy. Now you're probably going to get a low first, uh, a contenders first, um, for him, and I think I would hold at that price. I'm buying because I think he's a young guy.
Hmm.
He's shown that not only can he be a short passing game weapon, he's also shown that he can go deep. He has elite speed. He's gotten banged up here and there, but uh, my opinion is I don't read too much into injuries because I think this is 100% injury game, and people are guys are getting hurt all the time. I mean, all you have to do is look at this year to see how many injuries have befallen guys that we didn't think were injury prone. So as long as he's still playing this year, I'm buying. Um, it is kind of worrisome that Tua has this head injury deal, but if Tua gets hurt, they'll find a way to get another quarterback in there.
Listen, scared money don't make no money. So hey, if you're worried about Tua getting his head knocked off, probably start time to start selling those Dolphin players. But, but like you said, I have rode with Tyreek Hill throughout this whole slump, and at this point he was literally a two first kind of guy, maybe even a three if you could get it. Now I don't think I'll be able to get the value I want from out of Tyreek Hill, so he's gonna stay on my squad until he rot. Honestly,
I,
so
I don't think I can get a first for him now. I've tried to sell my Tyreek, my couple Tyreeks, and I'm just not. None of those
mhm.
guys, I'm getting what I want for them. So I need to wait for a blow up game, and need to wait for people that are getting desperate, trying to win ships, and then that's when I'll pounce on some of these contenders and try to get those two first out of them.
And before I move on to our next game, I would like to note that Amari Cooper has been ruled out of this game. He will not be suiting up for the Buffalo Bills. And that could either mean good or bad news for Keon Coleman, as he's been a little streaky on fire these last few weeks. So we will see if Keon can continue his streak or good play for the last several weeks he's been on it.
He's been mossing some guys. I see him
I
out there.
know, and it kind of hurts my heart.
Oh,
I done traded a few of my shares, or and I wish I would have sat a little bit. Now I've transitioned them into other good players, but just for the long haul, Keon has been looking really good.
really good. Yeah, I like that video. Who was it? Tyreek Woolen was talking trash to him, and then he proceeded to eat his lunch for the rest of the game, mossed him, pushed him down,
Yeah.
just treated him like a child.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get that kind of energy out of Keon Coleman every week, this guy's gonna be an all pro.
Did that boy bad. But on to the next game, and this is your team, the Saints versus Panthers. Ooh. And Derek Carr is back.
Yay! That's what I was waiting for. Not.
Oh,
Yeah, this game, it's so hard to read the Saints. Um, this game should, on paper, be a shootout. because neither of our teams are good on defense. Neither of our teams are good on defense. So I expect a big game from Alvin Kamara. Um, the Saints have been one of the worst teams at stopping the run all year.
Mhm.
Um, so the Saints should be giving up yards on the ground. And we're down. I think Kool Aid McKinstry's
I
out.
know, yeah.
Debo broke his leg in half a few weeks ago.
Marcus Lattimore's out.
Lattimore's out.
Mhm.
So we're really down in the trenches. So um, if any week was going to be a Bryce Young week, this is maybe his last chance to kind of fortify his future with that team because he showed a little bit against the Denver Broncos tough defense last week. If he can build on that, he may have a future in Carolina. But if the Saints make him look bad, you might as well just trot Andy Dalton back out there. But some of the guys I'm looking for are Chuba Hubbard.
Mm.
I believe he'll have a big game because the Saints can't stop anybody on the ground. And look for Jalen Coker to keep
Oh,
building on his recent successes. So he should make all of the cokeheads out there happy.
I think he'll
Uh,
make I think he'll make any NFL non NFL fan who is a cokehead pretty happy. Let me just and I feel like he's been getting that Puka hype. You know, he's been a hot name this week. We saw that DJ get traded, and I think that was a big implication on how they feel on Jalen Coker
mhm,
and
mhm.
how just letting the wide receiver they traded for in the offseason go. So it's like you said, this is the week for Bryce Young to show that you have some moxie, that you have some cojones to be an NFL quarterback with a defense that is missing their top two starting corners. So I think that Chris Olave will have a nice game, as we saw
Mhm.
last week with Derek Carr back. The Panthers' defense or secondary is very suspect, and they've been giving up a lot of plays this year. So I think Olave will have a very nice day.
Do you
I think
think? I'm sorry to mean to interrupt you, but do you think J.C. Horn uh, is
that
on is on Olave as the only weapon that we have?
I think you could see that. I think you very much could see JC Horn follow Olave around because at the end of the day, who do the Saints actually have besides him, right? I don't think the tight end position scares you. You
Not
have
at all.
you have Kamara out the backfield and into
Mhm.
when it comes to passing and check downs and things of that nature, and he can beat you from that aspect. But it's literally for the Saints. It's going to be Kamara, Olave. Those are the guys that you lean on and you just let me and you know how you is with Taysom Hill. You know how you be. So if you can ride them and hopefully squeak out. And once again, it's the Panthers. So I'm not. It's not to say the. No, yeah, it is to say Panthers suck. So if you are a Saints fan out there and you're looking or watching this game and you do not win today, it's probably time. It's already probably time to pack it up. But put those brown bags back over. Me as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'll probably be joining you. But this probably, if y'all don't win this week, this is probably be the one to put those brown paper bags over
It,
here.
it's bad because if we lose, Da keeps his job. The the city's going to completely turn on this team.
Mhm.
But one sleeper that I do have, as you saw by the jersey, is if you have tight end problems, like say for instance Dallas Goddard, who's out this week, Taysom Hill, I believe, is going to get you 2 touchdowns on the ground today.
Oh, hot take. You heard it here first on First and Fantasy. The next game that we have to speak about is the Raiders versus Bengals. And once again, I think this is a little bit of a snooze fest just because of the offenses that have not been clicking or hot lately. But I think with who I'm looking for with the Raiders to have a pretty decent game or a bounce back game is Brock Bowers. He did not have a monster week as we saw from other tight ends on National Tight Ends Day last Sunday, but he is facing a Cincinnati Bengals defense that allows some of the most points to the tight end position. And I think we are seeing, or I don't even think we have seen from Bowers why he was considered the greatest tight end prospect to ever come out of college. He and I think he didn't get peppered with the same amount of targets that he typically does the last 3 4 weeks, but I think he gets back to it. I think that that will be the game plan. Minshew is back.
Oh.
Minshew is back starting, so
Mhm,
he
mhm,
will. He lately has been the one to get Bowers the ball. I don't really care about the Raiders' running game at this point, whether it's
mhm.
Madison or Zamir White, who probably was the most overrated. And go Dogs, by the way, but he was the most overrated, talked about RB in the offseason. Who I'm looking more for in this game is how Burrow and Chase connection looks. Higgins is out this game, and
Mhm.
I believe if I just before we hopped on, Jermaine Burton has been ruled inactive due to being late to team meetings.
Come on, man.
What are we doing?
Come on, man.
What are we?
So, yeah, I believe there will be points scored in this game. But where are they going to come from the Bengals, outside of Jamar Chase? Some of the guys that may be sneaky starts in a pinch. Andre Ilasovius.
Oh yeah.
He's a guy. He's a guy that continues to get playing time. Um, and I every time I see him out there, I see him making plays. So he's a big size, speed specimen that could get on the board today.
Hmm.
Mike Gesicki,
I was gonna say
who
Mike
who's
Gesicki.
played good, and a personal favorite of mine, who hopefully he just keeps on getting some playing time, is Eric All Jr. That's another guy that tight end that can make plays. He seems to be a great blocker, and for that guy to get onto the field as a young guy, I think the sky's the limit for him
Hmm.
because we don't usually see tight ends, which is one of the hardest positions for an incoming rookie to learn, get on
Hmm.
the field so quickly. And I think his elite blocking has really helped him in that regard. And one of the guys that you didn't mention from the Raiders, who I would look for as one of the only guys left that can make plays on that team, is Jacoby Myers. He's a guy. Uh, Kind of a sleeper coming into the season, but he's their wide receiver one. So look for him to make some plays out there too.
Oh yeah, Jacoby, and he's usually not on my radar, but if you need a someone to start, Jacoby is not bad. He could
He's the
you can go a lot worse.
he's the last flex on quite a few of my teams. He's my
And
last guy in.
if we have two more, oh no, we have three more 1 o'clock games, and we are getting close to that 1 o'clock kickoff time. So we will try to speed it up here. We have the Chargers versus Browns. How do you feel about this game?
Chargers versus the Browns. Wow, have the Browns changed so much since last week? I mean, they were
Hmm.
the worst offense in the league, bar none. They were the worst watch in the league, bar none. They were just so inept. They were so terrible. They got Deshaun Watson in there, and they put in a former Saint, Jameis Winston. I wasn't the biggest fan of him. Haven't seen him up close for a couple years, but that guy will throw the ball, and they do have guys that are worth throwing the ball to. Um, Guys that weren't getting much love all season, and
Hmm.
they traded away Amari Cooper, and they're gonna let the young guys eat.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
Cedric Tillman,
Elijah
who's
Moore. Yeah,
looked
yeah.
really good the
Hmm.
last couple weeks. Talking about a guy that was on waivers for most people, and now he looks like the wide receiver one of that team. Like you said, Elijah Moore, a guy who had big moments in New York as a Jet before the bottom fell out for him. But a guy that I think still has a lot of talent. He's a guy that I've picked on up on in quite a few leagues. Um,
David
David
Njoku.
Njoku,
Yeah.
yeah, he's gonna be a top 5 tight end by the end of the season if they keep Jameis Winston in and don't put in DTR. So
Yeah.
um, I like the trajectory of the pieces on that team. Will they do it again this week? I don't know. Chargers have a little bit better defense than they faced with Baltimore last week. So,
Mhm.
if they can produce again this week, we may have fantasy goodness for the rest of the year. As far as the Chargers, it looks like Justin Herbert's on a heater. He's been playing really good football lately. So I would look for pieces um, in that passing game. And there's not many. Quentin Johnson's coming back. I wonder if he can do anything today. Who do you like on the Chargers?
Oh, go dogs! Lad McConkey, all day, all day, all day, all day. Okay, that's gonna be his
Finally,
new nickname for me. Is all
finally
day.
broke out.
Finally broke out last week, and I love that for us. I love that for him, and I think just going forward throughout the season, that chemistry between him and Herbert will continue to grow, and hopefully we see more breakout games from Lad. But he's basically, or we already knew that he was wide receiver one as he was drafted to be. Uh, whether it's a slot, whether it's being on the outside, I
Hmm.
think Vlad is going to keep improving each week.
Hopefully that wasn't just the Saints where we make everybody
Hey,
everybody look good. I want him to do it against the Browns. I got him in my starting lineup.
oh yeah. Now we have the Commanders versus Giants. We have the rookie of the year for him to lose right now, Jaden Daniels.
Hmm.
Man, oh man, and I hate to say it as a Cowboys fan, but goodness, do they have a quarterback on their hands?
Yeah, yeah. Jaden Daniels. I actually went to walk the dogs because I thought the game was over. I think it was like less than a minute left in that game, and to be able to pull that game out, that's like a signature moment of his rookie campaign. So yeah, he's not losing that rookie of the year to anybody. I don't care what Bo Nix does, but um, this could be a sneaky battle because defensive battle because uh, the Washington Commanders, who looked like one of the worst defenses in the league, just a few short weeks ago, have been kind of stepping it up the last couple weeks, and we know uh, the the Giants are not going to challenge anybody too much offensively. So I'm not sure if we're going to get the offensive fireworks in this one. I would like that for every game, but as far as guys to look for, I'm sticking with my guy Terry McLaurin, who's a wide receiver one.
Scary Terry.
Um, I did see a late scratch with Brian Robinson, so get him out of your lineups. I need to take my own advice because I think I have him starting a couple places. So we're gonna have to get off of here pretty soon.
Oh yeah, you're right. I do have a couple. Yeah, I got him starting one. All right,
Um,
let's.
Austin Eckler is a guy, and one of our favorites at fourth in fantasy, who's a must start every single week. I have him starting over a J.K. Dobbins this week. Is Tyrone Tracy
Mm,
Jr.
that is my boy. That is my guy. And I told everybody that would listen that he will, when he eventually takes over RB1 in New York, that he will not give it up. And man, has he looked? And he's this is only his second year at the running back position. Only he was a wide receiver before. So to see him doing what he's doing right now is incredible. I love it. Even though he's on the New York Giants, and I hate that part. I wanted my Cowboys to draft him. I think he's going to be for the rest of the year a good start. I'm not taking him out honestly.
I'm
If
riding a
he
hot hand.
he's right. I'm riding a high hand. The next game that we have is the Patriots and Titans, and I think where we're going to with the schedule, we're just going to name out the rest of the games, and then we're going to talk about our Debbie Player of the Week, so we can hop on those 1 o'clock
Sure.
games. All right, we have the Bears versus Cardinals. We have the Jaguars versus Eagles, Lions versus Packers, Rams versus Seahawks, and Colts versus Vikings. All of those games, I think, have implications of their own. Vikings, I think, beat the Colts. Rams, I think, beat the Seahawks. Lions beat Green Bay with Jordan Love being a little banged up. And I think Eagles beat the Jags, and Evan Ingram with Christian Kirk being out has an impeccable game. I think
Mhm.
Ingram's probably going to be my tight end one for the rest of the year. When we saw Christian Kirk go down last year, that's when Evan Ingram went on a tear. So
Mhm.
I think that's really going to be good. Once again, it's going to be a really good weekend for football, and that's what I am looking for. But to move on to our Debbie Player of the Week of Jordan Watkins of Ole Miss. 5'11", 200 pounds. And man, did he have a day yesterday against Arkansas. 8 receptions, 254 receiving yards. That is 31.8 yards a catch and 5 touchdowns. This is
God.
tell me about it. And he was a transfer from Louisville back in 2022. He's a pretty fast guy in high school. He was reported to run a 4.38. I think he will be a 4.45 type of guy
Mhm.
when coming out. This year, he has 25 catches, 549 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Majority of that coming from last game. And in 2003, he had 53 catches, 741 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And what I like about Watkins is that, and if you look at his size, he kind of reminds me of a Christian Kirk type of
Mhm.
build.
Mhm.
He will beat you down the field, take the top off of the defense. Like we saw yesterday, he had multiple big play touchdowns.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I do like about him is when he's running his routes, they are fairly crisp. So when he gets in and out of his breaks, he does that fairly well. And for his size, he is a willing blocker. He will get down and dirty. Before last week, he hasn't had a big game yet, so he is a junior, so he was returning. And I think going his landscape for the rest of the season will be affected by the quarterback there, Dart.
Mhm.
So Ole Miss has been they I think they have a winning record this year. They're actually doing fairly well. So I think where Watkins plays in that is he's looking more of a late round. He could push himself. I think he's going to be one of those players in the
Mhm.
offseason
Mhm.
that just skies up boards just because his attitude. He's a good character guy, and his speed, his playmaking. I think what we saw yesterday, he can bring to an NFL team. He just needs to bring it all together in a consistent manner.
Yeah, a couple things that I kind of jotted down on my research of him is Ole Miss, which, like you said, good pedigree. Some of the guys that have come out of Ole Miss in the last few years: DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Elijah Moore. Some really top level talent. I did read that right now he's not projected to be drafted, so could be a sleeper in the mold of a Puka Nakua. Uh, Jalen Coker. So he's definitely a guy that I would keep my eyes on and see where he lands. See if he can find a team where he can walk right into the slot because, like you said, he does get open. I've seen on tape he does get open. They've created some schemes to get him the ball in space, some out of the backfield plays, and I've seen him go downfield. So a very versatile guy out of the slot. So yeah, he's definitely a guy to keep on your radar. And if he's a late draft pick or undrafted, he'll be a guy that you can pick up in late third, fourth round of rookie drafts, maybe even off of the free agent run after your drafts.
Oh yeah, I think where he'll definitely be in that line of a Jalen Coker, or where if he gets the opportunity, I think he'll be able to show what he can do. He's one of those guys that work hard. He's one of those guys
Mhm.
that those blue chip guys that try to go after it every day. Good character guys that you look for. So I think with him being a good blocker, it'll get him on the field a lot sooner, even with his size.
Yeah,
And
I love it.
And that is our Davy Player of the Week. And before we go, with 2 minutes left, one of the things we will talk about, and we might go over into the 1 o'clock games, is how we think about rebuilding of, and to give a background, I am in 42 leagues right now. Most of those I am contending, some I am in the middle of the pack, and there's a very few that I took over orphan teams, and I'm rebuilding. So, Siako, how when you take over an orphan team or a team that you were originally drafted and it ended up not going as well as you thought, how do you like to base your or go about your rebuilding process?
Well, first of all, you have to like we said on the last podcast, you need to honestly evaluate where you're at and whether you can actually win the money, not just get into the playoffs, but actually win the money. If I'm not in position to do that, I'm automatically rebuilding. But there's a caveat to that. Do I have my first round pick? Because if I don't, then what am I rebuilding for? I'm rebuilding so this other league mate can get a higher pick. No, that's dumb. So um, if you can, I would try to get that pick back without giving up some of your long-term assets. If that team needs, say, a guy that can help him win this year, that's not going to help you in your long-term plans. Do that and do that to try to get your first back. Don't tip them that you are actually rebuilding, as much as you can because it can be kind of obvious.
Yes, and
So yeah, that's some of the things I would look for, and I would start by putting some of the older guys on my team on the block. Um, Maybe even put a nickname for him. I'll accept any second for this guy. I'll accept any first for this guy.
mm,
Kind of takes some of the haggle out of trade negotiations, especially like you said, you're in 42 leagues. You might not have time for haggling with people over a player. So those are some of the things I would do, but you have to, self scout and know if your team is competing and if you have a pick that's worth that you can, turn into a high draft pick.
and I will agree 100% on your takes on that one. When it comes to rebuilding, I'm a person who's always competitive. I want to win. I don't want to rebuild, but sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself. Can you compete? And when I say compete, are you one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the league? If you are not, then you seriously, I don't want to be in the middle of the pack. If you're in the middle of the pack, that does nothing for you. So if you're in the middle of the pack, start rebuilding. And it doesn't have to be a hard rebuild. It could be a soft rebuild. And when I go about these rebuilds, like for next year, since the 2005 draft has a lot of running backs, I'm probably not going out looking for those top 3, top 4, top 5 RBs in the NFL right now because I can get them at a lower cost. I can get a RB in this draft, this upcoming draft, at a lower cost than I could if I wanted to go get Gibbs, if I wanted to go get Bijan, if I wanted to go get Brees. Those are going to cost you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm always, if I'm going about a rebuild, I'm spending I'm sending my picks. Trying to trade players for elite wide receivers. Those are hard to come by. There's you can get a serviceable running back anywhere. They pop up every year depending on injuries. And if you can upgrade on your quarterback, just depending on what you have, right? You need to determine going into next season what will be easier for you to acquire. And then my also another tip I have is speak with everybody in the league. Just don't go private messaging one person
Hmm.
because you
Hmm.
don't know who's out there looking. And then you could just be undervaluing a player and you could be missing out on a bigger deal. So I always recommend reaching out into your league's chat instead of one direct person, just so everybody is on watch of, hey, this person's on the trade block and I'm trying to get something for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like it. The dogs are going crazy. The Saints must have scored a touchdown. I
Oh,
guess I
it's
don't know.
time. They know what time it is. It's that them 1 o'clock games is hitting off. But
Game time.
game time, baby. But before we get off and we head out of here, do you have anything for the viewers?
Um, Yeah, 2 touchdowns, Taysom Hill. I hope you got him into your lineup.
Okay. Well, you guys heard it first, and hopefully, y'all know what it is every week. Go Cowboys. Hopefully, we get our dub, the W. We're going to eat a W today. And if not, I'm also a Falcons fan because I'm from Georgia. So either way, it's a win-win for me. It is a win-win.
Can't lose. Can't
Can't
lose.
lose,
I
baby.
hate the Panthers, so no, it's only winning and losing for me.
All right. But thank you all for watching in, tuning in with us. You can catch us again on Wednesday. We will be dropping a video, and then you can check us out again next Sunday before kickoffs. And we'll
Live
be
every Sunday.
live every Sunday. And once again, there's more of us in here. So, it could be us too. It could be the rest of the team as we grow. And I hope you grow with us. Thank you all for tuning in. And we hope you have a dominating week in fantasy. Till next time.
Fourth and fantasy.